All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the All Things Nerdy Saturday Morning Cartoon Edition. Your host, Robert Jurdy here, that's me. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing as always. And today, this is a request show to a degree. We had one of my commenters here, thank you so much always, is commenting and requesting cartoons, who wanted me to watch a cartoon called Now Hear This. It is a Chuck Jones cartoon, 1963, Looney Tunes, Warner Brothers. And it's a little different in a couple different ways. First off, there's no real dialogue. It's all, what's it called, like Foley artist noises? It's all sounds and noises and things like that. Also, this was the first cartoon that that had its opening and closing credits as more of a modern abstract art style, as you'll see in the opening and closing credits here. And this was an interesting cartoon. So essentially, the gist of this whole thing is that we see, well, first off, we see a devil walking around, and he's missing one of his devil horns. And so, he shuffles off, and then we see this old man. It looks like it's in Britain, right? England, Britain. And he's walking down the street, this old man, and he has a hearing aid, like a horn hearing aid. And it looks like it's all, crumpled and old, the hearing aid itself. And so as he's walking, he sees the devil horn that the devil lost. And so he picks it up and he hears, and he can hear much better. He can hear different things. And his old one is all crumpled and gross. So he crumpled, that's a new word. So he throws it away and he keeps the devil horn. And as he has the devil horn, he hears not only all sorts of new things, but it's not just new sounds he's hearing, but it's kind of taking him through a psychedelic trip. It was an interesting cartoon. It was an interesting cartoon. I'm trying to look at my notes here. Yeah, there's a Foley artist, finds the psychedelic, a lot of fourth wall breaking. So here's the thing about this cartoon that I noticed more than anything else, and I think I get this from my mother, in that loud noises can kind of annoy me. Loud noises annoy everybody. But there's something about the sharpness of this cartoon. It's available online. It is not necessarily on YouTube, but you had to kind of scurry around for it, search around for it. It's about 6 minutes long, but you can find it. And of course, if you're really interested, I can definitely send you a link to it as well, where I found it. But it's constant crash, crash, blast, blast, bing, 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 bing. Like it's all like if you have a noise thing, my mom would always get mad at me because like if I'd make like chocolate milk and I'd ding the side of the ding, da, ding, da, ding, I could see her face, ding, da, ding, da, ding, And so I love you, mom. That's not a knock or anything. But I'm the same way, kind of to a degree. And so this cartoon is constant sounds, barrage of sounds, bang, ting, ting, birds. It's just nonstop. But it's also interesting. I mean, because it is no dialogue, all sound driven, and you're seeing this guy go through, initially, like I said, just hearing regular things to having access to this supernatural horn to where he can hear everything. And it takes him on like this almost psychedelic journey. And in the end, he's all beat up and he's, bruised in like a full body cast. And he's like, you know what? And he tries to get rid of this horn a couple times. But it either comes back to him so there's like a little minion, not a minion, but kind of like a minion character who, kind of puts him through the ringer with this horn. And eventually he's wrecked and he's all bandaged up. And so then he goes and he takes it. He finds his old one in the trash and he tosses the devil horn away and he takes it and he's body casted but resigned to keep with this one, his old one. And he shuffles off and the devil eventually finds his horn. And both of these cartoons today have morals at the end. And the moral of this one is essentially the grass is always greener on the other side. He wanted the new horn and because he didn't want his old horn, and he got the new horn, but he didn't like it because it caused all kinds of ruckus. So now he goes back to the old horn. It was interesting. I mean, I liked it. Like I said, if you're triggered by sounds, by sharp sounds, maybe not the best one for you. But it's interesting. But so let's talk about this moral for a second, and we talk about not wanting what's greener, right? Or, the grass is always greener on the other side. But, I mean, isn't it logical to, if you're, because they show clearly in the very beginning, his horn is all, and he's listening out of. I mean, you want a new horn, right? You're not just gonna like, if you get a pair of pants and they're like holes in the knees and the crotch and the butt, and you're like, okay, well, I don't know if that's where holes in the pants come, but you know what I'm saying? Like, you got these holy jeans. Are you not gonna get new jeans? You're just gonna suffer with your old slacks. You know what I mean? So I get, I mean, I get wanting to upgrade. I guess it's just, don't 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 use devil horns you find on the ground. Just go to the store and just get a new hearing aid. You know, don't take from the devil. I guess is the moral I'm going with. Ridiculous, but it's like I said, Chuck Jones, 1963, 1963. It was a lot of fun. It's on there, and what I'll do is I'll leave the link in the comments in the descriptions. You can check it out for yourself. See what you think. All right, and the next one is another Chuck Jones with a moral. And this one is called, well, it's all about the line, the dot, and the squiggly line. Romance and lower mathematics. Line and the dot, romance and lower mathematics. And I remember this one from a kid. This one is 1965, and this actually won the Oscar for Best Animated Film. And it's a beautiful cartoon. So in this one, the setup is we have a straight line, who falls in love with a dot. And the dot, she is really into this squiggly line, right? And the squiggly line and the dot are partying all the time, and the straight line is like, hello, ma'am, I love you, let us go dancing. And she's like, no, stupid, I like the squiggly line. And they're like, it's very, you can tell, I guess it's like the straight-laced versus counterculture kind of vibe. Like, I don't know what the opposite of is the Beatles. What's the opposite of the Beatles? Like classical music? Classical music versus the Beatles? Because the squiggly line is very counterculture, the Beatles, shaggy long hair, squiggles, and partying and stuff like that, quote unquote undisciplined. And so the straight line is talking to the dot, and he's like, hey dot, look, I love you, let's hang out. And she's a jerk. Let's just put this, I'm gonna put this right off the bat. The dot is a jerk, and she's like, no, stupid, I hate you, get away from me. Get away from me, stupid. He's like, you're just a stupid straight line. And the squiggle, man, we're having a good time, we're partying. And so of course the line gets all depressed, and his friends are like, dude, don't even sweat her, man, just meet another line and, settle down, and you don't need some dot. But of course, as is wont to do, the heart wants what it wants. And so he's mad and he's squiggly, he's mad and he's bummed out because he's a straight line. And he's like, but he's trying to rationalize. He's like, well, she just doesn't see me because I'm a daredevil. And you see like people walking across like a wire holding a stick, but he's the stick. Or like law enforcement officer, and you see like a street, it's like a picture, and like he's the straight blue line that's like, cutting through the street. So he's delusional. He like the self-delusion of all these things he can do, but in reality he knows that he's just a straight line. And he has an encounter with the squiggle when they were talking, and the squiggle's like, look, man, she just finds me more fun and spontaneous. And the line is like, well, the squiggle's right. Like, I'm not very spontaneous or fun. And so he starts to work on changing himself, right? And over months and months, he's able to make his straight line curve to like 90 degrees, and then another curve. And so he's able to change himself. And then he starts to practice and learn and grow, and he becomes not just angles and straight lines, but he becomes like circles and vectors and all these different things, and beautiful images. And it's all just this sort of, he's really growing and changing himself. And once he feels like he's sort of reached the apex of what he can do, he's like, I'm gonna go get her now. And so he goes over to the dot and the squiggly line, and they're partying it up, they're having a good old time. And the dot sees him, and she's like, "Oh, this jerk again. What do you want, stupid straight line?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, well check this out." And he changes, and he does all these things, and he's like a clown who's bouncing her around, and he's like like a painting, and he's circling her in like the lines of the painting, and he's doing all these really things, and it knocks her off her feet, and she's flustered and flummoxed, and just wooed by the line and how he's changed. And so she goes to the squiggle, and she's like, "Well, squiggle, what do you do, stupid? What do you do, huh?" And the squiggle's like, "Oh man, okay." And he does some things, and he's a squiggly. He makes like a little flower, but that's pretty much the extent of it. And she's like, "I don't know what I ever saw in you, you stupid, dumb, dumb, stupid, stupid." And she just berates him, and she's like, "You worthless piece of junk, crap, piece of junk, junk." And the squiggle's like, "Oh," and he squiggles away, and then she goes with the line, and they're happily ever after. Well, it's like, not happy, but happy enough. And I mean, it's a beautiful cartoon. It's well done. It deserves the Oscar Best Animated Film for winning. But man, I guess it's the moral of this cartoon that bugs me. Because this cartoon has a moral at the end of it too. It's like to the last one where it was like, the grass was greener on the other side. This one was kind of silly. To the vector goes the spoils. To Victor the vector. But I guess the thing that bugged me about this cartoon more than anything else is that this dude is changing for a person. Like he's changing for this girl who's a jerk, first off, right? And I feel like this girl, if another line did something similar, she'd hit this line and go with that dude in a heartbeat. Or if the squiggle was like, "Oh, check me out, I can do squiggle vectors now and do all this stuff. I can do squiggle." I don't know. Like I feel like don't change yourself for another person. Now, if you're going to change yourself for yourself. Because what happens when this girl splits? You know what I mean? Like, so I guess that's my whole thing in general. Like, if you're going to change, like, I think of Groundhog Day. Groundhog Day is the best example of personal. It's one of my favorite movies. I mean, if you know me, you know Groundhog Day is probably like my top 3 movies of all time, and because of the growth and change, you know, and in Groundhog Day, he tries to change for her, right, for Andy, um, or whatever. I think it's Andy McDowell is her name. I don't know I forget what her name is in the movie, but but he tries to change himself for her, and it never works. It never works. He's trying to change himself and be what she wants, and she rejects him at the end of every life, every time, and it just goes on and on until he realizes that you can't change for someone else. You've got to change for you, you know? And then once you accept that and change for yourself, then the people that are attracted to you, or the people that fit with you, or the people that want to be with you, or whatever, or want to be with you because of who you are, and not because you're trying to be something for someone else. And I think that's what bugs me about this cartoon. Like, I get it. It's a cute cartoon, and it's the sort of sweet, and that people should inspire you to change. I mean, look, I've been in relationships that go south, and afterwards you're like, you know what, maybe I need to change, or you grow, or you self-reflect, or you do these things, and you come out of it a better person. But if you're trying to change to reflect what that person wants, but it's not real, then what happens if that person splits? Then you're a whole new person based on someone else's criteria and not your own. So I guess that's the thing. And what's interesting too is that I feel like this, kind of we talked about earlier in the cartoon, that it really plays on these like, what is it, conservative society versus counterculture. Like the straight line is definitely the stiff, classical music, art, sculpture, personality. Well, the squiggly line is like, I like the Beatles, like the counterculture, shaggy-haired David Bowie, rocking out, man, having a good time, partying. And so it's definitely sort of I guess, a criticism of the youth counterculture, I would say. But all in all, I mean, it's a good cartoon. It's a beautiful, it's like I said, beautiful cartoon. Definitely deserved the Oscar for, well, I don't know what I went up against, but I mean, I can imagine it's a great looking cartoon. But the theme is what gets me. The lesson that we learn at the end is like, I don't know, man. I don't know. I think maybe I don't know what I would like to have been the conclusion is like, I guess I'm used to like, Shel Silverstein, what is it, the dot and the missing piece. You know what I'm talking about? Where this missing piece, this like circle with a piece cut out, like a Pac-Man, is rolling around, and he's looking for his missing piece, and he tries to wedge all these different missing pieces in there, but it doesn't roll right, and eventually he meets another circle that's whole, and he's like, "Hey, I want to roll with you," or he's like, "Hey, why don't you hop into my piece?" And the other circle's like, "No, man, I don't need a piece. I'm my own piece." And he rolls off, and so the circle, the circle is like, "Well, maybe I don't need a missing piece." And it learns to roll on its own, and that hole starts to fill in, and the edges become circular, and he's his own person. He's rolling around on his own, where he doesn't need another piece wedged in there to fill him, to complete him. He completes himself, and that's, I think, the better moral. So it's up to you, but of course, I'll leave a description or a link to this video in here too if you want to watch it. Check it out, see what you think. Maybe I'm just being, I don't know, whatever. But check it out, see what you think. I'd love to hear your comments. But that's it. Hey, thank you for watching Saturday Morning Cartoon. This is a shorter episode because it's only 2 shorts. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed our little talk. And if you disagree with me or agree with me or think I'm just nuts, write it in the comments. Let me know how you feel. And as always, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate the support. And next Wednesday, of course, we'll have a new All Things Nerdy with entertainment news. And hope you have a great rest of your Saturday. Get some cereal, get some coffee. Thank you for watching. Have a great day, and stay nerdy.